This is the Sideline Slice, presented by Valentino's Pizza, the official pizza of the Huskers. Here's your host, Jessica Coody, and Husker Radio Network analyst, Jeremiah Sirles.
Welcome back. We are back with an episode of the Sideline Slice. It has been a minute, but I have managed to locate Jeremiah Sirles. He's been a busy bee. Sirles, how you been? Is it summertime in the Sirles household yet?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this weather, May weather is just the best, right? Kids are outside. It's not too humid yet. I've got a little bit of downtime here since, the draft's all done now. And so now it's kind of getting guys settled in the league and start recruiting for next year. So I'm kind of in a little bit of transition time with work here. So it's always good to be able to spend some time with the family and play around, get some golf, and enjoy the summer.
I see you got some new decoration up.
Yeah, I thought you were going to ask me about that. So my good friend,
see all of it. So
I know.
What
so
does it
my
say,
good,
Swifty?
my good friend Zach at Straight Edge. He's a diehard Chiefs fan. I obviously am a Bills fan. I bet him that the Bills were going to win the AFC Championship. He bet me that the Chiefs were. If I won, then he had to hang a big Bills banner above his chair in the barbershop. If I lost, I had to hang this behind me on every podcast that I do between now and next year. It says Swifty Sirles on it. It's not my favorite decor, but it's a free promo there for the Straight Edge down there. So congratulations, Zach. I now have to hang this behind me, and you will see this for its entirety through the Sideline Slice, through the fall, and all that other fun stuff.
An entire year. You're pretty confident. That's wild.
I thought it was Josh Allen's year. I really thought it was. Because it would have killed him to hang a Bills banner. And I would have made it big. Like, it would have been a big Bills
at least
banner right above his chair.
At least you can kind of, your big shoulders cover that up a little bit.
You can't cover the whole thing up, but it's definitely still there.
I did see that Troy Aikman did an early pick on the Super Bowl or something, and he said the Bills. Troy Aikman, this morning on Good Morning America, picked the Bills.
I mean, they're right there. They're knocking on the door. They just paid Josh $330 million, so he better win a Super Bowl.
Well, how's the golf game?
It's going, getting down. I'm finally in the teens now for a handicap, so that's always a big plus. I started like a 28 when I picked up clubs for the first time in 2020. So working my way down, trying to figure it out. But golf's such a funny game. One day you play a good round, you feel pretty good. You go out the next day and can't get a ball in the air. So I don't know. This game pisses me off.
Yeah.
But it's so fun.
Join the club. Well, I just thought we kind of catch up on everything. And the one thing that has kept you busy is the draft. And we saw that Ty Robinson went to the Philadelphia Eagles. He's going to be matching up against Cam Jurgens in practice. How'd you like that pick and that fit for Ty?
Oh, it's a perfect fit for Ty. You look at what the Eagles want to do, and they're all about just rush 4, and we'll stop the run on the way to the passer. Like that's their philosophy is we're going to go forward and rush the passer, and that's how we're going to stop. And I felt like Ty, when he was at his best and at his most disruptive, they weren't asking him to two-gap and read and kind of read and react. It was more use that athleticism, use that power that you have, shoot those gaps and get up the field, and he's going to fit right into that defensive line. He's going to rotate in with, they've got some Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and all kinds of guys. They lost a guy that went to the Patriots in free agency, so obviously made sense for them to draft Ty. I think it's a great fit for him, and he's going to have an instant impact on that team.
And Thomas Fidone to the Giants, how about that fit?
Yeah, they're a team that's constantly looking for a tight end. They've kind of had a rotating door. They tried a guy they drafted in 4th round a couple years ago. Obviously, they had, who was the guy that was dating the WNBA player? Darren Waller, right? He decided to go out and make a rap career, so he no longer is playing football, right? They needed that tight end that can go and stretch the field for their young quarterback, Jackson Dart, who they drafted in the first. So, he's a guy that didn't have great production in college, but always had the athletic prowess. He had a pretty good Senior Bowl. I'm not surprised he got picked up late. My guess is the bidding war for free agency post-draft got a little crazy. And so the Giants were just like, screw it, we'll just take him and not have to worry about all that and just get him on our team. So always good to hear your name called. Always good to hear some Husker names called there. A couple surprises that we didn't get called. Tommy Hill, Isaiah Nair, a couple guys that I thought were going to get their names called that didn't. But it was a very strange draft, Jessica. Very, very strange.
I do want to go back to the Eagles real quick and just there's now multiple Huskers up there. Does it get to a point where some teams, hey, I know that these guys are going to fit what we do, and maybe you lean towards some programs over others when it gets to that point?
Yes and no. I mean, I think the joke in Philly is they're all Georgia players, which they all are, right? But for the most part, it is very much an individual thing. You want to get to a part as a program where you are viewed like that in the NFL. Right, where a team's going to look and go, okay, this guy comes out of Nebraska. I'll use North Dakota State. I think North Dakota State's a great example for this, right? So North Dakota State, let me pull this up, make sure I'm getting this right. Right, so North Dakota State, since 2020, right, in 2021, Dylan Radins was an offensive lineman drafted in the second, started for Tennessee. 2022, Cordell Volson, fourth-round pick, started. 2023, Cody Mock, he was a starter. Right, Jalen Sundell, he played in the NFL. Now Gray Zabel goes 18th overall. There's a pedigree from North State that offensive linemen are ready to play when they get into the NFL. And so much about what that looks like on the back end is, what have you produced in the NFL recently, right? Is it year after year that your guys are coming in and they're contributing and they're ready to go from a physical standpoint, from an X's and O's standpoint, from a professional standpoint? Can they handle themselves like young men? That can bode a lot of wells. And I think that's where Nebraska's trying to get to, is we're going to have super talented players here, and they're going to be acting and providing like pros when they get to the next level. If you can get to that kind of respect from the NFL looking at you as a university, that's when you'll start finding yourself in the conversations with the Bamas and the Georgias. And we got a ways to go for that. But Rule, coming from the NFL, he understands that. And so I really do think he's going to put a focus on that too.
I know Ty has not gone through a practice or a season yet, but he had talked about to me at Pro Day how much that what he has gone through with this staff with Coach Rule has prepared him. Like, he felt really, really prepared for everything that he experienced throughout the process.
Yeah, and that's fantastic, because I can tell you from working with a lot of kids from a lot of different universities across the country, that's not always the case. Right, that is not always the case. They're not prepared for what an NFL system is, or how an NFL weight room run, or how a culture of an NFL team is. And not to the fault of anyone, because the college is so different from the NFL. But if you can help a guy groom him as a college player so that when he assimilates into the NFL, it's already drinking from a fire hose, and it's already insane more talent and big money and people around and pressure and all this stuff that adds onto it. If you can kind of rest back and go, okay, my foundation is I've been prepared like an NFL player, then I can focus less on that and more on the other stuff around me, versus if you're trying to figure out, how do I be an NFL player? How do I practice properly? How do I eat? How do I do all this stuff properly? And then on top, trying to juggle all that, that's where you see guys not be able to come in and contribute in years 1 and 2. And the NFL, I mean, if you're not contributing by year 2, see ya, we'll find someone else, right? So it's really important that you, as a college and a university now, are preparing these guys, and especially now with money being involved in the college space, you have to teach guys how to use money properly and how not to let money all of a sudden dictate where it goes. Is it up? Is it down? There's so much that goes into preparing guys to be NFL players. Why was the draft so strange? Because there was so many kids, right? Because this was the perfect storm year. You had all the COVID babies, as I refer to them, that had all their 6 years. Then you had all your 5th-year players that didn't have a COVID year. Then you had your true seniors and your true juniors. I think the number eventually was like 1,400 kids in this year's draft class. Right? There's only 254 draft slots, right? And there's really only about 12 to 14 free agency slots post-draft on each team. So there's just not enough bodies. There's not enough spot for that many bodies. And so you saw guys that had mid-round grades fall out of the draft completely because there just wasn't enough picks. There just wasn't enough picks at the end there, and there's certain teams that valued certain positions more than others. Offensive line, there was only 33 offensive linemen drafted this year. Usually the number's in like the 50s. Right? There's a record amount of corners that went, right? And having only really a couple quarterbacks go early compared to what you thought there was going to be. It was just a very strange draft all the way around, and I think a lot of it was the NFL trying to figure out, how do we evaluate this many kids? Who's worthy of a draft pick? Who can we get outside? Do we want to wait till next year? Do we think next year's class better at this position than that position? And, it was just a very strange draft to watch how things kind of fell, especially day 3. Day 3 was just chaos.
Valentino's, treasured Italian family recipes passed down for generations. Valentino's has become Nebraska's classic Italian tradition and proudly served in Memorial Stadium for over 30 years.
Well, let's talk some Husker spring football as that is wrapped up too, and with the Husker games. And one of the big topics we heard a lot about was just the offensive line and that depth there, and the pieces that came in with Elijah Pritchett and Rocco Spindler, which you are a huge fan of. Seems like it's been a good building process for this O-line, and you've just harped on it for a long time now. It's just a long process, but it seems like they're starting to get to where they want to be with that room.
Yeah, I think they're starting to build depth at the top and depth at the bottom, right? It's good to have a good core group of developmental guys that you're really excited about for the future. And you really want to have that depth at the top of your two deep, that you don't feel like there's a big drop off from the starters to the backups. And, that's been my biggest issues the last couple of years. I feel like if one of our starters got hurt, it was this big drop off to that developmental group that had to come in and play right away. Like, you want to have kind of two tiers in the O-line room. You're too deep and you're developmental, and you don't really want to have to cross that threshold because of injuries. But, that's where we've been the last couple of years. But I felt like they've done a nice job, moving some guys around, getting some guys reps. I'm excited to see when Gunner can get back out there because he had a promising freshman campaign. So there's a lot of good pieces in that room that's just going to have to keep getting better, developing. But, being Rocco in, who was a playoff team last year, knows what it means to win, has that type of mentality, I think he's going to be the true leader in that room.
Hey, Elijah Pritchett, that is a big dude. He's a
large human. Yes, he is a large human.
He makes you look little.
I don't know about that, but he is a large human.
I thought it was pretty fascinating, though, what he said about when he got here. And, he did not by any means bash Bama or the program there, but he just said how different it was here. And when they got here, it was how they travel as a group, they move as a group, and just the brotherhood. And he's like, it was kind of fend for yourself a little bit, whereas here, if there was a day that you were down a little bit, the guys picked him up. I just thought it was pretty fascinating, his take on just the room of the O-line room here at Nebraska, and that culture that's been built, and how much he's appreciated being a part of it.
Yeah, that fired me up. That really fired me up, because that's how great O-line rooms are built. They're built from the inside out, right? And whenever you bring pieces into an O-line room, there is a little bit of panic in you as a coach and maybe as a GM of, hey, is this guy going to fit in the room, or is this going to be a problem? And I think the best way is if you can have the guys inside the room embrace those guys and bring them into the brotherhood, and not, hey, they brought you in and you replaced my buddy, I hate you, right? Like there is some of that piece they go into. And so to hear him talk about how he was accepted with open arms and the brotherhood piece, that just shows me that the culture is being built the right way here at Nebraska. Slightly surprised it wasn't like that at Bama. When the first time I heard that, I was like, that's interesting. But the more I thought about it, it's like, man, they've got a lot of 5 stars and first rounders and big egos. And so I can definitely see the fight for yourself, fend for yourself kind of mentality down there a little bit, because everyone's trying to get theirs, rightfully so. I mean, you get 5 stars in a room, everyone thinks they're the alpha male. But when you have a brotherhood that there is no ego, the ego's checked at the door and the best will play, which is I know how Donovan wants to run his room, then I think that's how you build and foster that relationship with those guys from person to person, from player to player, coach to player. And it all starts with how Donovan walks in and commands that room. And I think he's been here long enough now. He knows the guys in his room. He knows how he wants to coach them, when he can push, when he has to pull back, when he has to give a hug, when he has to give a chewing, right? Like, he understands a lot of the ins and outs that comes with that. And I think he's done a nice job managing all those different personalities.
When I interviewed guys throughout spring, it's funny, they brought up unsolicited just that the O-line, D-line, I think they got after it quite a bit in the spring, maybe to the point of the event had to be broken up a few times.
Good. That's the way it's supposed to be, right? Those two units are the tone setters for the entire team. Whether it's practice, whether it's a game, whatever it is, if those two units are who you can fall back on, you're going to be successful. And so when you have an immovable object that meets an unstoppable force, of course bad things are going to happen. And I can remember, brawls, all-out brawls when we would go against guys like Jason Ankra and Thad and Randy Gregory and Cam Meredith and, Baker Steinkuhler. I mean, there was fights on a regular basis because you weren't going to yield to them, and they sure as crap weren't going to yield to you. And so it was a test of wills. And just like spring ball and training camp, you get pretty tired of hitting the same guy over and over again, right? Like, okay, buddy, we're going at this again. It's day 13. Like, I'm coming, you're coming, and eventually tensions boil over. But that's what you want, right? It's the phrase that gets used a little too much. Iron sharpens iron as one man sharpens another. But that is really, truly the case. If you can have really good offensive, defensive lines battling out and making each other better, it's going to make Saturdays in the fall that much easier.
I got a chance to talk with Coach Rule earlier, and just even throughout spring, you just get a sense that he really likes this football team. And, we heard a lot of storylines kind of unfolding throughout spring, I guess, and you're just kind of following along and what you know about it. What coming out of spring now, which position group maybe excites you the most as we go into the summer?
I'm looking at this young group of receivers and going, okay, which one of you guys is going to be the dude, right? Like, because there's a lot of great players in that room. I'm not sure which one of them is going to emerge yet as wide receiver one, right? And I think that you heard every practice was, hey, this guy made a spectacular catch, or that guy's gotten so much better in his routes, or he gained this much muscle in the weight room this summer. Like, it was all positivity coming out of the wide receiver room. And so I'm really excited to see which receiver takes that jump with Dylan this year to be the go-to guy on 3rd and 8. Right? Hey, it's 3rd and 8. It's a gotta-have-it situation. It's in the 4th quarter. We have to convert this. Where's my guy? Bang. Right? I am looking forward to seeing who that is because I don't think anyone knows who that is yet. I think there's a lot of names getting thrown in the hat, but that's a great problem to have going into fall camp of, hey, which one of these guys is going to be our stud? Because one of them's going to step up and take it. So that receiver room is going to be exciting to watch.
I think, obviously, with Dane Ogerson, they're going to spread it around. You're going to see a lot of guys involved. But having that guy that you just talk about, what does that do for an offense when you have that dude, that number one dude that no matter what, hey, he's going to go make that play?
It's such a security blanket for Dylan. It's a security blanket for Dana, right? And it gives such great opportunity to everyone else, right? Because when you have the dude and the guy, he commands a lot of attention. Right, you're going to have the safety rotated over the top to double team him and bracket him. Well, guess what? That means that the other receiver's in one-on-one coverage. He better be able to go in too. And then you start picking on that guy, and then that safety starts going, I can't cheat over here. I'm going to have to move back to the middle of the field. Boom, then I go hit my home run hitter. Right? Like, it just changes the dynamic of when you don't have a dude at receiver, you would kind of play the defense can just kind of let's just let everything happen in front of us and see what happens instead of making them on a Wednesday game plan, star, circle, exclamation point, whatever, and go, we're not going to let that guy beat us. That's so much opportunity for everyone else, whether it's running the football, whether it's a tight end, whether it's another receiver making big plays. It just you put so much more pressure on the defense when you have that kind of guy.
How about RB1, Emmett Johnson? He's been our guy. We love him here on the Huskers Radio Network. How exciting has it been for you to see him really embrace that role? And it sounds like even his game-wise, that was another thing that got brought up a lot is that, hey, you are that guy. You have the capability to be one of the best backs in this league. And just that maybe he's growing into that role and really embracing that role and that it's starting to come to fruition for him.
Yeah, I just couldn't be happier for a guy, right? To see and to follow his career and watch him come in and kind of bide his time. And then, he kind of had the portal drama and all that. And to see him settle into true RB1 role and take that and run with it, I think it's what we all wanted for him as a fan base. It's what the coaches wanted from a coaching standpoint. And so to see him take this spring the way he did and really run with that role, I think his best football's still out in front of him. I really do. I think he cleans up some of the ball security issues. His vision continues to get better, and he just gets a little bit bigger. I mean, he has potential to be an NFL back.
Great stuff. Well, moving to OTAs, I know this wasn't back in your day. It wasn't something that was able to be done, but they can actually kind of get out on the field a little bit throughout this month of June, have some time with actually footballs too, and work with the guys. What now becomes the emphasis? What are some things that now these guys can work on to continue to get better throughout this time?
Yeah, it's great. When you used to end spring ball at the end of April and then you didn't put pads on and kind of have organized activities again until August, it just felt kind of clunky at the beginning of training camp where everyone's trying to get back into a rhythm, back into a groove. Hey, how do we break the huddle and get up and let set up and the tempo and all that stuff? And OTAs just allows you to keep that tool sharp, right? It allows you to keep the ability to operate clean, the ability to get rhythm and timing in a passing game, to feel Dylan Raiola's or whoever's quarterback is cadence tempo, right? Hey, has it changed at all? Or I can hear his tempo above every other noise around me because I've heard his cadence so many times, or I'm used to when everything is set and when the clap's coming, right? All the operational stuff is really important to stay sharp on. And that's what I like about the OTAs is it's going to continue to build that so that you don't have to spend the first week in training camp with guys jumping off sides and not getting lined up, or this route was supposed to be 8 yards and you broke it off at 7.5 because your timing's off, right? Those are the type of things that OTAs allow you just to stay sharp with and continue to work at. So then when the pads do come on, you can assimilate that much faster.
Hey, what does it do to just for a group? I mean, there's going to be competition. Nobody's job is handed to them, right? But QB1, RB1, Luke Lindenmeyer is going to be your tight end. You have you have so many guys returning from the starting lineup or from the starting offensive line. What does that do for a football team with so much returning experience on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, it just allows you to install faster. It allows you to add more to the playbook. It allows you to get better timing with everyone. It's just one of those things that you truly do get more reps at it, right? And the more reps that you can get and the more timing you can get with those guys, the more polished it becomes. And I know polished is a word that people might be like, what do you mean by polished? Well, I mean that if there's a mesh route and you're supposed to run within 1.5 yards of each other and try and pick the defenders on a natural pick, that you've done that so many times now because you're with the same guy doing that mesh route, that it's clean, it's polished, it's not, the timing's not off, or you can kind of feel what that guy next to you is going to do. Like when I played with Spencer Long next to me, I knew that I didn't even need to make the call because we both knew the call, right? And if we wanted to change something, we both could look at each other and change something and be on the same page. And when you play with someone year after year after year, you have that nonverbal communication down and you have that trust down with the guys next to you of, hey, I know we all know what we're doing, so I'm not worried about getting you lined up and you lined up and making sure we're identifying the right point, because we all should know what we're doing. We've done this long enough now. Now we can really have our antennas up and looking around going, hey, that safety's topped over number 2. Something doesn't look right out here. Hey, Dylan, you see that? Right? Or, hey, Justin, you see what I'm seeing out here? Let's push the point, right? You can just add more layers on top of the playbook already and go from there. And from a defensive side, you can feel, hey, this guy's supposed to be in this gap. I see him getting reached. I'll just make him right, and he'll know that I'm going to make him right because we've repped it so many times in practice, right? It's just adding more and more layers on top of your base install is what happens when you have guys that play together year after year.
Interesting. Hey, when we talked to Coach Rule, I asked him, because, he went to the WWE, and I asked him who would make the best WWE superstar. You're never going to guess who he said. I guess I'll give you a hint. It's on the offensive line.
Yeah, no, I figured out. I was going to say maybe Henry Lutovsky.
No, you got it. It's what he said.
Yeah, I could see Henry. He's got kind of the brothers, are you ready? Right? Like I could see a little bit of he's having the Racho Man Randy Savage type thing to him, giving the people's elbow type thing going down. So I definitely could see that out of Henry.
Oh, that's hilarious. I guess you were a wrestling guy.
Not really. I mean, I watched it every now and then, but it wasn't. It's not my cup of tea. I think it's funny. I had some buddies that die for it, like my business partner Alex Boone. He took his son Bear to front rows when it was in Minnesota, and they're all about it. I'm like, I'll watch my F1. I'm an F1 guy. Hey,
Coach Rule's been everywhere. He's been at the Kentucky Derby, went to WWE, was on the front row again with Dylan and Emmett. He was at the NASCAR. And, he had talked about just the importance of that brand getting out there. If you're a young player and you're seeing some of the things he's doing, I feel like I would think, man, that guy looks fun. I kind of want to go play for him, or at least see what he's about.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, you want to, hey, that guy, he seems like a dude, right? Like I want my head coach to obviously be great and know when to push me and when to lead me, but I also want him to know when to love up on me and when to have fun. And this is a fun game. Football is the greatest game imaginable. You want to have fun doing it. Like if Coach Rule can have fun, that means I can have some fun too. So yeah, I definitely think that he's doing it the right way. He's building things the right way. It's interesting to see his approach compared to some other coaches around, and you're just seeing such different things from Coach Rule than a lot of coaches around, and I think it's a good different.
Another thing he brought up too, I'd love to get your perspective on, because you have mentioned this a few times and the importance on some of your teams, but just that, they kind of did their thing in the spring and now handing things over to some of the leaders. Okay, what kind of team do you want to be? It's now your time to figure that out, and just becoming that player-led group and just the importance of this time. How does that change and start to really develop during these next couple of months here over the summer, and just, I guess, the value of it?
Yeah, you really see the leaders of the team emerge over the next few months here. Excuse me. Right? You see the guys that are willing to step out of their comfort zone and know that being a leader means you're not always liked. Right? Being a leader means that you might have to get on your buddy about a lackadaisical thing, or you have to then step up and lead the team when everyone's dragging and practice isn't very crisp, and you have to be the one to have those hard conversations. It's a really hard thing to do, but if you can have a group of 5 or 6 of those guys, and Coach Dobson always used to say, hey, you can't have a ton of Chiefs and no Indians. Right? Like you have to have Chiefs and Indians, and you have to know where your role is, and you have to be okay in that role. And if you can have 5 or 6 Chiefs and the rest of you understand, like, yes, I want to be a Chief one day and I want to be a leader and I want to do those things, but right now is not the time. I'm going to listen to those guys. I'm going to follow those guys' lead so that I can be those guys at one point in time. If you can have a big group, a crew that does that, and a good leadership group at the front, that's how great teams are built. And
just even outside of football too, right? Just continuing to build that camaraderie. It seems like a lot of that happens during this time too.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys hang out off the field. You learn about this guy and his family and where he came from and what makes him tick and what's his why into this and how does he handle stuff outside? Do I need to come alongside him? Do I need to support him? Is he going to be there to support me? And you just learn so much about each other during this time of year, especially in the summer when there's really no one on campus besides the athletes. And you just spend pretty much every waking moment together, right? It's, hey, we're at workouts. All right, where are we going to eat? Where are we going to hang out, right? And these guys have so much money now. It's like, hey, who's getting the boat? And where are we going to the lake now, right? Very different than for us. It was like, who's going to spend the $16 on the case of beer and we're going to hang out somewhere, right? Very different conversations now, but it's all good stuff. It's all great stuff, and it's all really fun for these kids, and I think they're having a great time with it.
Well, is there some pool time or lake time in the future for the Sirles?
Oh, once that pool gets open at Firethorn, my kids already are like, can we go to the pool? Can we go to the pool? I was like, you got to wait a few more weeks. But we will spend a lot of time at the pool, the Firethorn pool this summer.
Any T-ball?
No T-ball. Verman finished up flag football in the fall here. I was the coach. And then Aylin's in gymnastics and soccer. And then we're going to get her into some volleyball. And then Ver's got a track meet this week. So we're kind of going in there.
Does he have your wife's speed, hopefully?
Hopefully. It definitely doesn't want mine, right?
We know.
He basically was like, we did 1 year of T-ball, and he was like, Dad, that's kind of boring. I was like, right? It's boring, right? Mostly from a selfish perspective, like, I don't want to spend my Julys in Des Moines, Iowa. I don't want to go to Bismarck, North Dakota for a 3-day baseball tournament in late July. So as soon as he was like, Dad, this is kind of boring, I was like, yeah, it is. Let's go play football or do something way more fun.
Oh, great stuff. We'll circle back and hopefully have another pod, catch up in the summer and all that. There's some agent type stuff I'd love to do with you and dive into that kind of thing, because you're getting to see now another side of it that even just at the college level that I think would be interesting for people to hear and get your perspective on that. And
Jessica, I am recruiting high school kids. I am meeting with class of 2026 high school offensive linemen. So
Wow.
yeah, we could do an entire hour show on where I think the landscape and how college football is changing. And I just had this conversation with my dad for like an hour, and he's like, I had no idea any of this was going on. I was like, no one does. No one knows what's happening, right? It's the wild, wild west, and it's getting more and more out of control. So yeah, we'll definitely circle back on that because I think it's a fascinating conversation.
It is, just because you have all the different perspectives of it too,
Yeah.
as a former player, being in the NFL and going through all of it, and now on the agent side of it, I think you have a cool perspective that a lot of people don't have. So I'd love to dive into that. But we already went our 30 minutes. Of course, we spent 15 minutes talking about the offensive line. So we didn't have time to get into it today. But maybe the next time we'll circle back and dive into that, because I do think it'd be fascinating to get your opinion on that. Well, do you want to give a shout out to the Chiefs as we sign off?
Never. Nope, not at all. Not even in the tiniest bit of my body do I want to do that.
For Jeremiah Sirles, I'm Jessica Coody. This has been the Sideline Slice presented by Valentino's Pizza, the official pizza of the Huskers.
Go Big Red.
Valentino's, a slice of home you just can't get anywhere else. What started with a treasured family recipe has become a Nebraska tradition for over 65 years. Proud to be the official pizza of the Huskers.